Brandon Miller, B. Millie, continues to let it be known how important Paul George is to his game, how he pretty much modeled his game after him. Today, he came out with some statements. He has said that Paul George is the right guy for this generation of NBA players to study. We're gonna break down exactly, where we going with all of this, because I understand the love affair for Paul George. Like I said, he's a great player. But a lot of people, don't. It's a lot of more incremental things that we need to evaluate with Paul George. Um, Listen, I remember Paul George's game pretty much from the inception. Especially with him coming into the NBA. It was just a wild situation, to say the least. If you had a crazy thing going on, you know, um, it was a wild situation because Paul George pretty much took over for Danny Granger. That Danny Granger situation was crazy. Granger was really the number one option, for that squad. But then the injury situations and issues, it caused Paul George to take that mantle. And Paul George, to me, is a guy who pretty much accepted that number two, number three situation. Is like that number one option just was a little too heavy. That's what I noticed with him. I don't understand it, but I just thought it was just a little way too heavy. And he leaves Indiana, to, move on and on and on. And like I said, he never really got to where he was supposed to get to. And now he is out here with the Clippers, and like I said, it's crazy. It's more than just the quintessential 6'9" 3-point, scoring from all these different levels. I just think it's more that goes into it. Before we start saying that he is the guy that we need to model ourselves after. But I want to, Carmelo even agreed with this as well. I want to get all into it. Um, this is what he said to an ESPN reporter. He says that he's smooth. His game is so fluid. He can do everything on the court. He has a great post-up game, fade away, either shoulder, step back, going either way. He can do everything. So these are the things that he said about Paul George. So it's kind of crazy. This is his GOAT, and he let it be known. He continues to let it be known. He said it's kind of how the league is built now. Paul George is the right person to study for this generation. Pardon me. That was the statements, from B. Miller. And we're gonna get into Brandon Miller and his thing. I just want to keep it on Paul George for a second. Um, this season he's averaging 22 points per game. He's shooting 47% from the field, 40 from three. But also I want to talk about Paul George, how he bounced back from the injury. A lot of people don't know that Paul George suffered a devastating, leg injury. Back in the Olympics, it was fever play, and he broke his leg. I mean, the bone. It was a compound fracture, and for him to come back from that, I think that it's nothing to scoff at. And not only come back from that, but come back from it dominant. Paul George was in the MVP conversation up there in OKC. All kind of stuff that was going on. So I don't want to just make this a hit job on PG. I just think that it's just more that goes into it. I think it's more players you might want to model yourself after, that are winners, not guys that, fall back of, I'll be the number two option, I'll be the number three, when you had everything at your disposal up there in Indy, and, they were knocking at the door, a couple of seasons and they just couldn't get there. To now you're out there with the Clippers. You don't even get to a conference final. You don't make it to the finals. And then you guys got immense talent. And I'm just saying, Paul George. I think He's a great player, man. Like I said, I can't discredit nothing about him. It's just like I just think that there may be other players. Like Carmelo is a guy you can model yourself after, in my humble opinion. But it is what it is at the end of the day. But Brandon Miller, he's got his work cut out for him up there with the Charlotte Hornets. Just point blank, period. Um, Brandon Miller, this season, his rookie year, he's averaging 16 points per game, shooting 43% from the field, 36% from three. So you clearly see what's going on here. Also, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. So these are things that definitely keep an eye on with him. Clearly, I think he is built to be that number 2 option next to LaMelo Ball. I think that's just the way the dynamic of this team is set up. And I think that for him, if he wants to model his game after George, how he basically acquiesced to the number 1 option that was already on the team or whatever, joint the number 1 option, then I think that maybe he can, model himself after PG. But nonetheless, man, George is a top-notch talent. He's home up there in LA. Let's hope that they can get the job done, man, because they've been knocking at the door for some time now. And I think that it's finally their year to finally do something. A lot of people feel like they could do something special, and then the next week they feel like they're trash, So the Clippers have just went through a tumultuous time period, but I just hope for the best for them. That's all I really can. And if you my man Brandon Miller, he's got his work cut out for him, because the Charlotte Hornets, man, they need to build, and they're building slowly, but they building surely. And I think that some eventually is going to get done, with Charlotte, and I think that they're going to be on track and competent, like some of these other organizations that we see. Because we see some of these other teams and where they're at and their trajectory, and it seems like Charlotte is like miles behind. And I think that um, that time is about to slow down and stop, and where they're going to be on par with everyone else, But nonetheless, make sure you hit the like button and most definitely hit the subscribe button. You already know what it is. Flight Sports TV. I appreciate y'all, for tapping in with us. You already know what it is. There's a lot going on. Salute to them Pelicans. Salute to we had the Pelicans game today. We were live. Shout out to the Pelicans versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. We got a lot of games here, so make sure you subscribe to Flight Sports so you stay up to date with all news, updates, and more. Peace and love.